Welcome to the program, friend. The impeachment proceedings have begun. We're going to play a really important clip for you, and then I'm going to give you my analysis, having spent hours watching these hearings. I've got some news that I think you're going to find very important. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program. Senator Mitch McConnell told the news yesterday that there will, in fact, be a trial in the Senate. There have been some people suggesting that he would allow for a dismissal without hearing any evidence. That is not going to be the case. I decided that the best way that I could serve you in today's program was to play the opening statement from Congressman Devin Nunes. He's the ranking minority member on the Intelligence Committee, which is run by Adam Schiff. Rather than tell you the lies, I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, the concept behind this is very simple. When men or women go to work for the Secret Service, which is in charge of finding counterfeit money, they do not study fake money. They study real money so that they can identify a fake like that. And if you are watching most major media in this country, they're holding up the counterfeit to you. Or at least they are playing portions of the narrative from the two men that testified yesterday that would be the most salacious news bites, news clips that they could show. Oh, President Trump is a criminal. I watched all of Adam Schiff's opening statement. I watched Devin Nunes' opening statement. I watched both the opening statements of these witnesses, and I watched the questions of the witnesses. And I thought what would be best, because most of you haven't had the time to watch these hearings, is to play Devin Nunes' opening statement in its entirety to give you a perspective of what this is all about, and then to talk to you about what these two witnesses said, the star witnesses, and give you my experience as somebody who has been in court literally dozens of times. I can't even remember the amount of times that I have spent in local, state, and federal court. So I'm very familiar with the rules of evidence and what it means to examine witnesses. So we are going to play in two segments Congressman Devin Nunes' opening remarks, and then I'll be able to talk to you a little bit after that. Here's the first half.
Thanks, gentlemen. In a July open hearing of this committee following publication of the Mueller report, the Democrats engaged in a last-ditch effort to convince the American people that President Trump is a Russian agent. That hearing was the pivotal finale of a 3-year-long operation by the Democrats, the corrupt media, and partisan bureaucrats to overturn the results of the 2016 election. After the spectacular implosion of their Russia hoax on July 24th, in which they spent years denouncing any Republican who ever shook hands with a Russian, on July 25th, they turned on a dime and now claim the real malfeasance is Republicans' dealings with Ukraine. In the blink of an eye, we're asked to simply forget about Democrats on this committee, falsely claiming they had more than circumstantial evidence of collusion between President Trump and Russians. We should forget about them reading fabrications of Trump-Russia collusion from the Steele dossier into the congressional record. We should also forget about them trying to obtain nude pictures of Trump from Russian pranksters who pretended to be Ukrainian officials. We should forget about them leaking a false story to CNN while he was still testifying to our committee, claiming that Donald Trump Jr. was colluding with WikiLeaks. And forget about countless other deceptions, large and small, that make them the last people on earth with the credibility to hurl more preposterous accusations at their political opponents. And yet now, here we are. We're supposed to take these people at face value when they trot out a new batch of allegations. But anyone familiar with the Democrats' scorched earth war against President Trump would not be surprised to see all the typical signs that this is a carefully orchestrated media smear campaign. For example, after vowing publicly that impeachment requires bipartisan support, Democrats are pushing impeachment forward without the backing of a single Republican. The witnesses deemed suitable for television by the Democrats were put through a closed-door audition process in a cult-like atmosphere in the basement of the Capitol, where Democrats conducted secret depositions, released a flood of misleading and one-sided leaks, and later selectively released transcripts in a highly staged manner. Violating their own guidelines, Democrats repeatedly redacted from the transcripts the name of Alexander Chalupa, a contractor for the Democratic National Committee who worked with Ukrainian officials to collect dirt on the Trump campaign, which she provided to the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. The Democrats rejected most of the Republicans' witness requests, resulting in a horrifically one-sided process where the crucial witnesses are denied a platform if their testimony does not support the Democrats' absurd accusations. Notably, they are trying to impeach the president for inquiring about Hunter Biden's activities. Yet they refuse our request to hear from Biden himself. The whistleblower was acknowledged to have a bias against President Trump, and his attorney touted a coup against the president and called for his impeachment just weeks after the election. At a prior hearing, Democrats on this committee read out a purely fictitious rendition of the president's phone call with President Zelensky. They clearly found the real conversation to be insufficient for their impeachment narrative, so they just made up a new one. And most egregiously, the staff of the Democrats on this committee had direct discussions with the whistleblower before his or her complaint was submitted to the Inspector General. Republicans can't get a full account of these contacts because Democrats broke their promise to have the whistleblower testify to this committee. Democrat members hid these contacts from Republicans and then lied about them to the American people on national television.
All right, don't go away. I'm showing you this to put in perspective what is happening. Please stay with me. We'll come back with the second half of Devin Nunes' opening remarks. Introducing Roxy Guitar. If you're a guitar or bass player, whether you play acoustic or electric, check out Roxy Guitar. I've been playing for over 40 years and seen guitar stores all over America. I've never seen a store like Roxy Guitar. Roxy Guitar has over 700 guitars in stock, over 1,500 pedals, over 200 amps. For the beginner or price-conscious buyer, there's Michael Kelly guitars. For the serious player or professional, Roxy Guitar has the finest selection of guitar lines I've ever seen. You know I love Warrior guitars. Roxy Guitar has over 100 Warriors in stock. They have Heritage, G&L, Gretsch, John Sears, BC Rich, Duesenberg, Dean, legendary guitars at great prices, including pre-owned Gibsons, Fenders, and more. Let them know you heard about Roxy Guitar from Randall Terry and receive 10% or more off your purchase on select items. Go to roxyguitar.com. Welcome back, friend. I'm going to play the second half of Congressman Nunes' opening statement. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because millions and millions of Americans literally have no idea about the narrative that he is discussing. If people are watching the three major networks, CNN, MSNBC, or reading the New York Times, the Washington Post, or those that print their stories, they are literally hearing some of this for the first time. And I think that it's important because the narrative of what President Trump allegedly did, the high crimes and misdemeanors for his impeachment, are out there everywhere. But this narrative is not known by millions of Americans. And for some Americans who were tuned in to the hearings yesterday, this is the first time that they heard this. You may be among them. So I continue with his opening remarks.
I've noted before, the Democrats have a long habit of accusing Republicans of offenses they themselves are committing. Let's recall, for years they accused the Trump campaign of colluding with Russia when they themselves were colluding with Russia by funding and spreading the Steele dossier, which relied on Russian sources. And now they accuse President Trump of malfeasance in Ukraine when they themselves are culpable. The Democrats cooperated in Ukrainian election meddling, and they defend Hunter Biden's securing of a lavishly paid position with a corrupt Ukrainian company, all while his father served as vice president. Despite this hypocrisy, the Democrats are advancing their impeachment sham. But we should not hold any hearings at all until we get answers to three crucial questions the Democrats are determined to avoid asking. First, what is the full extent of the Democrats' prior coordination with the whistleblower? And who else did the whistleblower coordinate this effort with? Second, what is the full extent of Ukraine's election meddling against the Trump campaign? And third, why did Burisma hire Hunter Biden? And what did he do for them? And did his position affect any U.S. government actions under the Obama administration? These questions will remain outstanding because Republicans were denied the right to call witnesses that know these answers. What we will witness today is a televised theatrical performance staged by the Democrats. Ambassador Taylor and Mr. Kent, I'd like to welcome you here. I'd like to congratulate you for passing the Democrat Star Chamber auditions held for the last weeks in the basement of the Capitol. It seems you agreed, witting or unwittingly, to participate in a drama. But the main performance, the Russia hoax, has ended, and you've been cast in the low-rent Ukrainian sequel. I'll conclude by noting the immense damage the politicized bureaucracy has done to Americans' faith in government. Though executive branch employees are charged with implementing the policies set by our president, who is elected and responsible to the American people, elements of the civil service have decided that they, not the president, are really in charge. Thus, as we'll learn in these hearings, after expressing skepticism of foreign aid and concern about foreign corruption on the campaign trail, President Trump outraged the bureaucracy by acting skeptically about foreign aid and expressing concerns about foreign corruption. Officials' alarm at the president's actions was typically based on second-hand, third-hand, and even fourth-hand rumors and innuendo. They believed it was an outrage for the president to fire an ambassador, even though the president has full authority to retain or remove diplomats for any reason at any time. Officials showed the surprising lack of interest in the indications of Ukrainian election meddling that deeply concerned the president, at whose pleasure they serve. Despite all their dissatisfaction with President Trump's Ukraine policy, the president approved the supply of weapons to Ukraine, unlike the previous administration, which provided blankets as defense against invading Russians. By undermining the president, who they are supposed to be serving, the elements of the FBI, the Department of Justice, and now the State Department have lost the confidence of millions of Americans who believe that their vote should count for something. It will take years, if not decades, to restore faith in these institutions. This spectacle is doing great damage to our country. It's nothing more than an impeachment process in search of a crime. That I yield back.
Don't go away. I'm going to talk to you now when I come back about the two witnesses and what they did and did not reveal. I'll be right back.
I also want to speak tonight directly to Muslims throughout the world. We respect your faith. Its teachings are good and peaceful, and those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah.
We have reaffirmed again and again that the United States is not and never will be at war with Islam. Islam teaches peace.
Islam is a religion of peace. They are not Muslims, they are monsters.
We've been told that Muslim terrorists have hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam. But Islamic art and literature tell a very different story. To know the truth, we only have to study the narrative of the founder of Islam, Muhammad, in his own words. Welcome back, friend. William Taylor and George Kent. These were the two star witnesses that the Democrats put on the stand. I listened to both of their opening statements and I listened to them being questioned. Let me give you some of the takeaways. And if you have the time, you could listen for yourself, but I'm telling you right now, it's boring, it's redundant, and there's no there. All right. Both of these men are career diplomats. They have worked in the State Department, and both of them have a fairly extensive knowledge of Ukraine. That's why they have the jobs that they do. As I listened to them, several things emerged that I want to communicate to you. Number one, both of them had very impressive pedigrees. If I was the father of either of these men, I would be very proud of their service. I'd be proud of their record. One of them is a decorated veteran, Mr. Kent. These are not schleppers. There's a reason why they were picked to go first. These are men that would be credible in front of a camera, credible in front of a jury. Having said that, here's the problem. Number one, neither of them heard the phone call. Number two, neither of them have met the president. Number three, both of them had their noses out of joint because of a track of negotiating and talking with the Ukrainians that kept them out of the loop. The more I listen to them, the more I realize their noses are out of joint. These are men who are behaving like a dissed girlfriend, like somebody whose advice wasn't taken. They're the experts. They're the ones that should have been consulted, and they weren't. It was clear with both of them. Number two, they had no firsthand knowledge. Friends, I'm telling you, I have been a defendant in multiple trials, both criminal trials and civil trials because of my pro-life work, fighting against the murder of babies. I understand the rules of evidence. I understand what is not admissible. I understand what is hearsay. Literally every single thing that was supposed to be damning from the Democrats would not be admissible in a court of law because it was hearsay. There was no firsthand knowledge. I sat there, and the more I listened, my jaw was dropping open because of my experience in court. I'm thinking, this is what the Democrats believe are going to bring down a president? There's no evidence here. I was told, somebody told somebody, and that person told me, some of the chain of data was so convoluted, it would have been better placed on an elementary school or a middle school playground. There's nothing there that could even remotely result in the impeachment of a president because it was all hearsay evidence. It was literally rumor mongering. And if this had been a trial under the federal rules or state rules of evidence, neither of them would have had any testimony in the record. Nothing. Except in regards to what they have done as individuals and what they have done as members of the State Department. In other words, their own personal history, sure, that's fine. But anything regarding President Trump would have been not admissible. Nothing. Which made me come away saying, oh my goodness, the Democrats don't have a case. I actually was tuning in thinking something bad's going to come up here, and nothing came up. Now, the mainstream press is not going to show the clips of the Republicans questioning these two witnesses. But the more they questioned them, the more it became clear they didn't have a clue what was really going on. And when I come back, I'm going to tell you the most damning thing that came out of this testimony from Mr. Kent. It's going to be shocking to you. Don't go away. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Welcome back, friend. Perhaps the most damning thing that came out of the testimony from Mr. Kent was when he was asked if he knew that there was a criminal investigation going on regarding the interference of the Ukrainians, the Steele dossier, the abuse of FISA courts with President Trump's campaign in 2016. And you know what he said? He said, could you repeat the question? That's what you say when you're trying to buy time. And then he gave a very, very convoluted answer, like he heard something about it, and I guess that's up to the courts that, to decide. Whoa, stop. This is the heart and soul of the whole thing. So this man who comes up there and claims that he has knowledge, as it turns out, as he testified, he got his information secondhand or from news sources. Literally did not know that there was a criminal investigation going on at the heart and soul of what President Trump talked about with President Zelensky was Burisma has been alleged to have been in a lot of criminal activities, a part of a corrupt Ukrainian system. And there's also now allegations that Ukraine, not Russia, but Ukraine was also, not just Russia, but Ukraine was helping the Hillary campaign and the Democrats. Did you know there was a criminal investigation? Criminal! Would you repeat the question? Let me say it like this. If there was criminal acts that went on regarding Ukraine interfering with our elections, or something corrupt or illegal with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Burisma, the gas company in Ukraine, which is corrupt, all right? Then we as American citizens have a right to know it, and justice should be served. So here's the Democrat argument. If Joe Biden did in fact do something wrong, or Hunter Biden did, or if the Ukrainians did something wrong, that we as Americans and President Trump as the president and the boss of the Justice Department, we have no right to know it. And because former Vice President Biden is an elected official, and because he's running for president, any investigation into criminal wrongdoing or unethical activities is off limits. You can't ask these questions, President Trump, because he's running for office. And if it is found out that he actually did something criminal or unethical, it could help you politically, and therefore you have no right to know. Do you understand the absurdity of this? Can anyone stop and say, wait, Are you saying that because someone is running for office and it might help another candidate if some criminal wrongdoing or unethical activity came out, that we can't know about it and that they should be hands off? This is absurd. And it's at the heart and soul of what's going on. I'll talk to you next week.